On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. One of the biggest questions that's going to be facing many Americans coming up on November 3rd is, which America are you going to choose? Which America are you fond of? Now, I know right now it's kind of a simple left and right choice to many, but I also contend that right now and into this weekend and into next week and continuing, people on the left are going to start to really change how they view what's going on. Now, they can claim what they want to on the media. They can say that these are nonviolent protests and all this kind of stuff. They can say that, Biden's this, that, and the other thing, that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And someone recently posed a theory, which I kind of like, and we'll see how it plays out. This isn't me telling the future, but it's a very likely scenario. And again, we'll see. But some had suggested that Biden, to get out of having to do the debates, very likely will come down with the COVID virus and conveniently not be able to leave his bunker until he gets better, which could very likely take until right up to the election. So no debates would ever happen because, of course, you can't make someone debate if they're, quote, sick. So we're going to see how that plays out. Obviously, Kamala Harris would become an important aspect of that, but we truly will see how these games play out. Now, one of the larger concerns that keeps getting thrown in our faces right now is that if Biden's elected, all this violence will stop. They're essentially saying to us, hey, look, you either give us back the presidency or we will burn down your state. Now, I don't see Biden truly stepping up and saying that's not okay. In fact, I see a lot of the proponents of the news actually kind of pushing that direction. Breitbart, for example. Washington Post says election will end in violence unless Biden wins in a landslide. This is what the left wants. You either give us back the country or we are going to burn down your towns. Now, if you think about that just from a logistics standpoint, if I'm somebody that maybe I don't agree with you on something, like, you want a pepperoni pizza or do you want sausage? And you're like, man, I really, really like pepperoni. And they're like, no, pepperoni is horrible. It's disgusting. It's whatever, like for whatever reason they're going to give you. Maybe we shouldn't use sausage. And the other side's vegetables, right? So they're like, I don't want to eat your meat pizza. That's disgusting. And you're like, well, I don't really just want vegetables. I'd love to have some meat on it. And they're like, well, you either eat vegetables or I'm going to punch you in the face. You can't negotiate with that kind of person. Someone that's willing to burn down a town, that's willing to destroy someone's home just to make a point, just to show you they're angry. That's what you're going to get anytime there's a disagreement. So they can say that all the violence will stop when they take charge again. Problem is, if you ever disagree with anything once they've taken back charge, you're not going to ever have an opinion. Remember, if your opinion differs, you're going to get shut down with force, violence, jail, censorship. Well, right? Look at all the things they're willing to do these days. Now, one thing that's amazing, even with all the censorship, even with their abilities to control the narrative in the media, anyways, the mainstream media, oddly, the one thing they can't control, and this is the one thing that's going to kill them, the more they censor, it's going to hurt them because it's going to make people wonder, hey, where are all these other opinions? That's so strange. And then on top of that, you get situations like what happened in New York either last night or the night before, and you see absolute lawlessness. But not just that. You're minding your own business. And in fact, this video I'm going to show you, think of how many people that you're going to see that were most likely on the left. Again, this is New York, very left-leaning town. Think of these places, and you'll see in a second. I want to lead it up a little so you think of the people that are being affected, not the people causing the problem, not the BLM rioters, but the actual individuals that were there as just citizens. Think of how many of them are left-leaning. And how many of them, when they had this experience, were no longer left-leaning. We had an issue here in a restaurant. Well, I'm going to share this. I'll just let this speak for itself. This is beyond words to me, but let's check this out.
We're shutting the party down. Nobody's going to touch you. We're shutting your party down. Calm down. Calm down.
And that is the people that we are going to contend with if we vote Biden back into office. That's how this is all going to stop, is by giving into this and letting them have their leader who's going to basically screw the rest of us over. The rest of us that actually want to be able to go and eat a meal without being totally molested by outside people that are pissed off at the world. But somehow in their minds, they're just to ruin your meal because they're pissed off at the world. You can't rationalize with that type of thinking. The only thing they can do to express their displeasure is to try to ruin someone else's life. We've seen this spin out of control in all sorts of different situations. Now, again, I've said before, and I'll continue to say, they're trying desperately to aggravate the right into action because they realize that the right are the ones that can carry and have most of the firearms. They need that retaliation to make their whole situation kind of get ignored. Again, right now, everybody's looking at months and months and months of violence. And right now, that's all they're seeing. So again, so long as we're able to somewhat contain ourselves on the right and defend ourselves rather than going out and causing problems, we are going to see them continue to whittle away their supporters piece by piece by piece. In fact, it's shown right here that suburban voters swing to Trump. They now view BLM unfavorably. In July, Black Lives Matter movement received a 46 favorable to 45% unfavorable rating by suburban Americans. Right after the Republican convention and all the Kenosha stuff, that rating flipped to 44% favorable to 50% unfavorable. And if you continue to see the way the violence has progressed, if you continue to see the way that New York's having issues again this weekend, the way we're hearing about what's going to be happening in Washington, D.C. coming in the next couple weeks, we are seeing it happen around us. You can censor Twitter as much as you want. You can censor whatever as much as you want. Ultimately, people are seeing it with their own eyes. You can't censor the actions, these lawless actions that are happening in the streets. You can't. People see it. I'm sitting here having dinner and all of a sudden a mob of people come in and destroy the restaurant. And that's supposed to make me feel safer. That's supposed to make me feel like, oh, no, you're who I want in charge. Yeah, no, of course. You make all sorts of rational sense. And again, how many of those people in that restaurant were most likely left-leaning and probably are no longer left-leaning at all? And nor do they even respect this movement that, again, has been completely co-opted. This started off as a good movement, even though really right off the bat it was part of Act Blue and all that stuff. So again, whatever. And it kind of leads me to this guy. So again, let's just go ahead and skip where I was going to go and just talk about Soros. The Election Integrity Group is set to stage to oust the president. These guys are literally trying to oust the president. Now, what's really interesting, the Transition Integrity Project, it's an organization featuring a bipartisan group of Trump haters. I don't understand how you can get a bipartisan group of Trump haters. I mean, all the never Trumpers, I guess. But you're either kind of supporting this guy right now or you're not. And just because he's wearing the label Republican, I don't care if you say you're a Republican, you hate Trump. You're not a Republican. You're a Democrat. Just hush. Or you're a deep state player, and who cares anyway? With that being said, a bunch of Trump haters have gotten together, and they're claiming that President Donald Trump will cause violence if he disputes the upcoming election result. They're already blaming future violence on Trump. Now, again, these are the same people that say, give us back the government that we want, and we don't care that we lost it fair and square. Give it back to us or else. And here is what we're experiencing. So they're running all sorts of simulations, and they claim to indicate that Trump and his supporters will create mayhem. Again, this is their key. They have to do this. That is what Soros is dumping millions and millions of dollars into right now. Pissing off the right. You guys have to remember that as this stuff plays out, so many people in this Q movement are like, why don't they arrest him now? Why don't they go out there and arrest him? You can't. People have to see this. All those left-leaning individuals in this restaurant that were going to vote Biden aren't now. They had to see it. They had to witness it. When you see people walking through your neighborhood, through your cities, when you drive downtown one morning and then go home and then drive back town the following morning and your whole entire city is now smoking and in ruins, it causes a very distinct change inside of you. People have to see it. Yeah, I can tell you all day long. We can tell you. Q can tell us. Trump can tell us. Kelly McEnany can tell us all day long that this, that, and the other thing is happening. And you're like, nah, whatever, it's just Trump, he lies, Trump's a liar. All right, well, again, when they come busting through your restaurant, is that Trump? Did Trump do that? And again, the very concept from the left is about divisiveness. LGBT, whatever, right? All the letters, man, woman, you got, everything's segmented, color. They break everything into little subcategories. By the very nature of categorizing something, you've divided it away from the larger group. That's why you categorize, because you want to see if you can find little mini things, little mini compartments, little ways to stereotype. So the very nature of how the left manages its day-to-day affairs is divisive. Maybe it's a positive divisive in their minds, sure, but without a doubt, you're dividing things. You're breaking it into segments, and then you're saying in a lot of cases, you're not okay though. Everyone else is okay over here, but you, man that's white, oh, you are hated, you're a horrible man. So people are waking up to what's actually happening, and this is affecting the positive vibe that people are getting about BLM, about the left. And so they're running a lot of simulations, but again, simulations are only as good as the data you put into them. Think of all the weather stuff that the world was supposed to be over by 2020. We were all supposed to be dead. Every one of us was supposed to already have gills because we're covered in water. It didn't happen because their simulations suck, because the data you put into a simulation is how you get data out. And if the data you put in sucks, you get sucky data back. That's just how it works. It's not necessarily wrong. You just go back to the drawing board and you adjust what you're doing until you eventually get an accurate model. But these models have been used to scare people, haven't they? They've been used to manipulate people, haven't they? Gee whiz, here's a Soros-backed group that's running simulations that are showing favorable, that we're going to manage to piss off the right so badly, they come out into the streets with their guns and we can finally get that civil war we so desperately want. Now, I don't. You don't, none of us do, and that's why we're gonna mess with them. Remember, the one thing Q keeps saying is the power of humanity is something that needs to be remembered. We have options, and people are surprisingly good, and we do get some examples from here and there where our administration, our current president, the current executive branch is trying to make things better. At least from our standpoint. Again, people on the left are going to be very, very upset about this particular story, but there's nothing about this story that's wrong, really. And again, it comes down to, are you being divisive or not? I get that people need to talk about some of the differences that exist between stereotypes, but to actually label one group just because by the nature of your color, you're instantly racist, that's completely messed up. There's nothing about that's accurate. There's plenty of people to suggest it's not accurate. There's all sorts of studies that suggest it's not accurate. And there's a lot of people of color and everything under the sun that also say it's not accurate. But there's some people that really want to take everything back, don't care what you think or say, and will strike you if necessary to get their point across. These are the people that think everybody's bad except their groups that are favored. So what happened? Well, an executive office of the president, Office of Management and Budget, basically did an executive order that they are removing race theory trainings, and they are removing those from anything. These types of trainings not only run counter to the fundamental beliefs for which our nation has stood since its inception, but they also engender division and resentment within the federal workforce. We can be proud that as an employer, the federal government has employees of all races, ethnicities, and religions. We can be proud that Americans from all over the country seek to join our workforce and dedicate themselves to public service. We can be proud of our continued efforts to welcome all individuals who seek to serve their fellow Americans as federal employees. However, we cannot accept our employees receiving training that seeks to undercut our core values as Americans and driven division within our workforce. The President has directed me to ensure that all federal agencies cease and desist from using taxpayer dollars to fund these divisive, un-American propaganda training sessions. Accordingly, to that end, the Office of Management and Budget will shortly issue more detailed guidance in implementing the president's directive. In the meantime, all agencies are directed to begin to identify all contracts or other agency spending related to any training on critical race theory, white privilege, or any other training or propaganda effort that teaches or suggests either 1, that the United States is inherently racist or evil, or 2, that any race or ethnicity is inherently racist or evil. Those are his 2 mandates. If you're teaching that the United States sucks, we're not putting any more federal dollars towards it, period. You know the left and the communists in our government are going to love that one. No, we need to be able to preach our communist stuff within our own government. No, done. Number 2, if you're teaching that a specific race is bad, no, because that doesn't bring... You keep trying to say that Trump's the divider. No, it's this craziness. They're teaching this in our schools. They're teaching this in our government, to hate members of our own society. They're teaching people that you're wrong by the way you were born. I swear I thought Martin Luther King said something about judging me by the content of my character rather than the color of my skin. It seems as though those days are gone. Hopefully we can get them back, or at least hopefully the left remembers that they once believed in these things. Now, speaking of people on the left, hypocrites and all those kinds of things, one thing that's really funny, I mean really funny, is even CNN gave Pelosi crap. Even CNN said, wait a minute, this doesn't seem like it matches up. Let's check out what CNN said. This is absolutely hilarious to me.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi claims she's the victim of a setup. She says she made a questionable decision this week by going inside a beauty parlor in San Francisco. That's against the rules there. She's also not wearing a mask in this portion of the video that was released by the salon. The salon's owner's staff insists she did wear one, just not at the moment that her hair was being washed. Pelosi blames the salon owner for releasing this video.
I take responsibility for trusting the word of a neighborhood salon that I've been to over the years many times, and that when they said, well, we're able to accommodate people one person at a time, and that we can set up that time, I trusted that. As it turns out, it was a setup. So I take responsibility for falling for a setup.
Well, the salon's owner was quick to respond on Fox last night.
She had called the stylist or her assistant did and made the appointment. So yes, the appointment was already booked. If she's in there comfortably without a mask and feeling safe, then why are we shut down?
Okay. Well, John, I just want to say one thing. I also go to salons. I go inside. My state allows it. I wear the mask the whole time while my hair is being washed. You can actually wear the mask while your hair is being washed. I think that would solve the problem.
Look, she should know better. Bottom line is she should know better. People are making this a partisan issue. To me, the issue is that too many people are trying to find an exception or a cheat or to get around the rules here. We all need to be responsible.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And even they're calling her out and saying, no, sorry, Pelosi, I think you need to follow the same rules that the rest of us are. And many of us are tired of this double standard. That was CNN. CNN. Now, maybe they were two, I don't even think they're super famous people. I don't remember or recall either of them, but doesn't matter. And maybe they lost their jobs immediately. But it was CNN. So even CNN is starting to acknowledge the horse poo-poo that we are starting to experience among this political establishment. And it is that, an establishment. Trump is this outsider that's looking out for you and me. And again, they want us. Trump's just in the way. And thank God he is. Thank God the attention's been played out. Thank God the 17th letter of the alphabet has actually played a magical help. You know, all the time you'd think when Sesame Street was teaching us the letter Q that it would end up being this big a deal. I know, right? I didn't see that coming. Something that's also come out on the New York Post, and I think this is fantastic. Confessions of a voter fraud. I was a master at fixing mail-in ballots. So many people want to say that, oh, nobody does it, nobody blah, 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 blah. It does happen. One, Does both sides take advantage of it? Certainly. They've had to go far and wide to find people from the right that have definitely gotten busted, but New Jersey's definitely an example of it, and it's happened a bunch of times. And I'm not trying to say one side's better than the other at all. And again, the one argument, I've said this before, and this is my favorite argument to the left. I've used it a bunch of times, 100% successful. 100% successful. And here's how you do it. People are against the whole, well, they think that if voting by mail is going to be taken advantage of. And what you say to them immediately, right? Because their whole thing is that the left's getting blamed. So here you set them up. It's beautiful. They can't resist. The left can't resist when you lob them a softball. They have to swing at it with all their might. They have to. So you say to them, all right, let me ask you this. Can someone on the right take advantage of this? And they go, yes, of course people on the right can take advantage of it. And then you go, exactly. Then it's a bad idea. Win. Checkmate. Can't lose. Can't lose from there. Because if one side can take advantage of it, it's bad. If both sides can take advantage of it, it's double bad. And double bad doesn't kind of counter out. No, it's just worse. It's even worse. So we did have a guy that got into all the different ways that votes can be taken advantage of, and for that matter, were taken advantage of. He even goes so far as to explain how to do it. I actually saw this as more of an article training people on how to help mess up the election coming up. Now, they're saying elections that can be shifted by 500 to 1,000 votes, that can make a difference. And you guys know that's true. You know that's true. So this whistleblower talks about a lot of this stuff. One, phony ballots. Now, in a lot of cases, ballots themselves, like he was talking about, aren't watermarked. But what is tricky is that envelope, that return envelope with the signature. That's the hard part. So what do? They make fake ballots. This guy was making them on his own copy machine, probably going down to Staples and making gobs of copies. He'd steal the ballots out of the mail once he saw them. He would steam open the seal. He would pull out the old people's vote. He would put in his fake one and close it back up so it is a legit looking ballot that has now been changed. Another thing they would also do is they would find people that knew they were in heavy Republican areas, and so they would steal those ballots. There's also times, literally, just the mail people would dump them into dumpsters. They'd never even get counted. They'd never make it because they figured 95% of these are going to be Republican anyway. Who cares? They also had issues where people would knowingly try to help people fill out ballots and do them inappropriately, like at nursing homes was a great example. Voter impersonation, something that actually takes a lot. I guess it's public records. If a person's registered to vote and never does actually vote, then that shows up and people might somehow be trying to take advantage of that. You've got bribing voters, which I don't know. To me, that seems ridiculous. I think it happens more from a candidate level than any other way, but that would just be expensive. Like, what are you going to bribe them with a $5 Starbucks card? And shoot, even that, you can barely buy a drink anymore at Starbucks for $5. So I don't know, has it got to be a $10 card now? That's a lot of money to spend just to get someone to change their vote. So again, they're saying $174 per vote. That's pretty good. So they talk in all sorts of ways of how this fraud happens and how easy it is. Look at all these. All it takes is a postal service person that hates one side or the other, and they can drastically alter an election. Drastically. There is hundreds of votes sitting right here. I just take these 4 little things, dump those. I just affected the outcome of a local election that easily. So when the left tells us that they're really looking out for us, that they're trying their best to get the country back to good. In fact, I got to open this up because it was so funny to me. This is Build Back Better Biden, which is funny if you think about it. I think it's Build Back Better, which triple B is kind of strange. But then on top of that, you got Biden below it. So it's like kind of funny. Like, I don't know if you realize how funny that kind of reads. Build Back Better Biden? Really? Yeah, Biden, you suck. We need a better Biden. What happened? Can we build him? Are you like Humpty Dumpty? Did you fall off the wall and all the king's horses and all the king's men? They certainly couldn't put poor Biden back together again. We need to realize these people want to force their reality on us. This utopia that they have in their mind only works if everybody succumbs to the same crazy Kool-Aid that they're drinking. Unfortunately, most of us are rational-minded people. Most of us enjoy our freedoms. Most of us realize that the only way we keep those freedoms is by demanding that they not be taken away and accepting nothing less. These freedoms were not something the government gave to us. These freedoms were something that were spelled out to where the government could actually interact with us, meaning I get the freedoms no matter what. They're unalienable. I'm born with them. You cannot take them from me. Yet, that's what they want to do. Understand this world that they're forcing on us, these BLM protests, this violence in our streets. This is the world that they're going to bring to you. Brought to you by Biden. I feel like there should be commercials where you see the burning in the city and we'll stop the violence if you elect Biden. Just elect Biden and the fires go out. I'm Joe Biden and I approve of this message, right? Like it would play out like that. That's the kind of junk that they're saying. Really? They always say don't negotiate with terrorists. I feel like even if the terrorists are domestic terrorists, we still don't want to negotiate with them. Let's make sure we keep this country in our hands, not theirs. It's we the people. It's not you, the Joe Biden. It's not you, the Nancy Pelosi. It's not you, the George Soros. You, the Bill Gates. No. We, the people. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.